Well, good morning and happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome to the program. This is It's Sunday. For those of you new here, this is just an informal show on Sunday mornings to have our coffee together, talk about junk. It is not the formal Intrepid radio program, although we're broadcasting on the same network and in the same places. So, welcome. Good morning. I'm just having my coffee. I've been up for a good hour and a half getting things done. Something I want to talk about today, too. Elderberry and I were talking about this a little bit before the show, about a half an hour ago. And we'll get into that in a minute. But welcome to everybody. I see everybody over here. Elderberry is in the room. And Grumpy Stack is here. Good morning, Doug. How you doing? And Roger Rabbit is here. Good to see you, Roger. Can't always see you live, but it's nice to have you here live this morning. And we've got Chief Remeldian Olympus is here. Remeldian is here. And so welcome this morning. I thought I saw Field Guy very early, but he was letting us know that he's not going to be here today. He has to work. And who else we got in here this morning? A bunch of people listening. Not everybody showing their face in the chat room. So welcome. It's me this morning. We may or may not have a Rainy sighting. We'll see how she is today. She just organized and put on the Blue and Gold banquet yesterday for the Cub Scouts. And she's been planning this for weeks. And she got me to come along and help her out a little bit. And so we were there from about 10:30 yesterday morning until I think we finally rolled back in the house at about 3:30, 4 o'clock. And that's for the Cub Scouts, grade school kid age, and their advancement and activities and their little annual banquet, which isn't a banquet like parents might think of a banquet. We have a banquet. It's like, oh, do we get steak? Do we have baked chicken and mashed potatoes? No, this was pizza and vegetables and fruit and cupcakes. So there you go. There was the banquet yesterday. So she was not feeling tip-top yesterday morning, but it's, might I say, in her cycle. And so she was a bit run down feeling yesterday, but she pulled it off. She didn't sit the whole time, barely, and she was running that whole thing. And so it was really well done. And she brought in snake handlers. I guess you could call them that. They're the snake and reptile people. I think it's through the state of Minnesota somewhere, the zoos or something like that. Or the reptile house or something. I don't know what it was. So they put on a good show for the kids. And good morning, Kat. Good to see you. Nice to have you here this morning. I see Uncle Dave is in the room as well. Welcome, Uncle Dave. And so so she had a busy day yesterday, and I got to help her out, and she's fantastic at what she does. I got a couple of pictures I'm probably going to post on my social media of her running the show yesterday. And of course, she couldn't have done it without the help of all the moms as well. If any of them are watching, kudos to all of you. And let's see. So this morning, and this is kind of what I wanted to talk about a little bit today, and we'll get to all of your input. You can call into the show if you want. It's in the description somewhere down below is the link, but I can also post that for you here. I'll post it right now in the chat room so you can actually see it and without digging for it. There's that link to get into the chat room. And the first thing that comes to mind, and this was something that was prompted by, Roger Rabbit says, ironic being she's quite the snake handler herself. Bada boom. Sorry, I what did they say? I saw something in a little tidbit of weird news yesterday that They say it was study from some university, I don't know if it was Cornell or something like that, stating that the male penis has increased in size by 24% over the last 20 years. And I think the joke in it was, oh, funny coming from the same institution that is saying that penis no longer is needed to become a man. So good thing they're growing in size. I guess I missed that date, that cutoff somewhere along the way, being I was born 62 years ago. So, oh well. Uncle Dave says, "Oh, what a beautiful morning! Oh, what a beautiful morning! Oh, what a beautiful day! I've got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way." I always liked that play. They put that play on when I was in 7th or 8th grade at the junior senior high school. And I learned that song back then. I wasn't in the play, just an observer. But I liked it. I always liked musicals. Like I say, I'm not gay, but I like musicals. Not that there's anything wrong with being gay, if that's your choice. If that's what you want to be, or if that's what you think you are, or that's what you know you are. You know, it's not my business. But I'm not gay, which is usually associated with liking show tunes for some and Judy Garland for some reason. I'm neither of those things. So anyway, I learned that song, but then I liked it when McRae, I think was his last name, who played it in the movie Oklahoma, made in the 50s or probably the 60s. Joel McRae? No, not Joel McRae. A name like that. You can all look it up and find it. Too bad Matthew Sainsbury is in here. He'd have that right off the top of his head or off of his Google. But Joel McRae, I want to say, but a different face comes to my mind, that old actor. But he, when he sang that song in the movie, he always put the little cowboy accent. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. He says. Or his song about Judd. Poor Judd is dead. Poor Judd Fry is dead, and he looking all so purty and serene. Though they used to treat him bad, now they all are sad, because they know their friend is gone for good. Anyway, as an aside from what I was talking about, this morning, I was up about 7:15-ish, and drove my daughter, Rowan, my 11-year-old, to volleyball practice. I don't know if it was volleyball or basketball, but drove her to practice this morning. And I'm thinking when I'm there, and the parking lot was packed with parents dropping off their kids of various ages and grades for some kind of Gordon McRae. There it is. Thank you, Kat. And welcome, Morgan Snow. The parking lot is absolutely packed with parents dropping off their kids for various activities at the school. And I had to have Rowan to the high school for practice at 8:30 this morning. And I thought, there you go, Kat. Joel McRae was in the Oklahoman. Oh, what would you call that? Synchronistic? Something like that. I dropped her off, and I'm seeing all these parents dropping off kids, dads just like me, a lot of them in their hair sticking up and wearing shorts and t-shirts and flip-flops, even though it's like 9 degrees outside this morning, because they all just got out of bed. Dad, you got to take me to practice. Oh, yeah. So dad is up, everybody's dropping kids, packed with parents and kids on a Sunday morning at 8:30. And as Elderberry and I were talking about, man, when we were kids, there was never practice on a Sunday, never practice or rehearsals on Sundays because it was viewed as, well, this is the day that people go to church or they do their various things of worship, or it's their day off. And so Sunday was never a time to be set aside for doing practices and rehearsals and things like that. And I thought, wow, and I'm not a churchgoer. despite, as you all know about me, I used to be in ministry. I was very Christian, biblically oriented. But nowadays, even, I look at that and I say, wow, how secular has our society become? Even down to now, yes, it's a government run school, it's a public school. But the first thing in some of these coaches' minds and stuff, well, it's so busy. We've got Sunday morning. Let's do Sunday morning. Did it ever occur to them? Does it even occur to them? Does it even factor in that there might be people with a religious base that have Sundays set aside, that they go to church? Well, I can't go to church this morning, Mom and Dad, because I got practice. Or do you hear, Coach, I can't come to practice because our family goes to church? Which is it? So, yeah, now they can drive themselves, Morgan Snow says. I'm glad I'm past that, she said, meaning driving kids to places early in the mornings. Now, they do have Saturday practices and stuff, but I wonder about the coaches and what their mindset is about setting practices or rehearsals, such as like Uncle Dave and I were talking the other day on air about how I said, I'm taking my kid to basketball rehearsal. And he started laughing. He says, rehearsal. He says, arts and crafts people and theater people, everything's a rehearsal. Nothing's a practice. So that's what I wonder about. Uncle Dave says, usually it's the last place that gets involved in that. Usually the coaches are religious themselves. I gotta decode that. Usually it's the last place that gets involved in that. Usually coaches are religious themselves. I know what you're saying. So what do you guys think about that? That's what I want to talk about this morning. I'm going to bring Uncle Dave in a minute here. But what do you guys think about that? What do you think about, should there be a day of the week that's set aside for, remember, even in the 10 Commandments and in Judeo-Christian religions, that there was one day a week. It was the Sabbath, which is not Sunday, by the way. It's that got convoluted over the years. The Sabbath was Saturday. And the one day a week where in Jewish law, it became, all the commandments said was, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Well, it was Jewish law that set up all the details around the Sabbath. You couldn't cook on the Sabbath. You couldn't do this on the Sabbath. You couldn't walk more than 75 feet or whatever it was on the Sabbath. You had to rest. It was like an imposed, dictatorial, tyrannical day of rest. And of course, it wasn't viewed that way. It was religious. It was theological. And then, of course, in the New Testament, all the commandments are repeated there, I think, except the one that says, remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. The Apostle Paul, who hijacked Christianity and wrote 2/3 of the New Testament, said, remember to bring your tithes and to fellowship on the first day of the week, which is Sunday. So somewhere along the way, because the worship changed to Sundays, the Sabbath became known as Sunday. Oh, it's the Sabbath today. And somebody said that to me a few times over the last 50 years. And I go, wrong. Thank you for playing. It's not the Sabbath. It's Sunday. The Sabbath was yesterday. So there's that. Always were boring Sundays in my youth, says Morgan Snow. Sundays were church and family dinners and nothing else. That's pretty much what we did all through my high school and seminary days. Back in the late 70s and the early 80s, when I was dating my first wife, we would always come up from college for the weekends to her parents' house. And we would stay, of course, in separate bedrooms because we weren't married yet. And her parents her dad was an elder in the church. It was a Baptist church. He was a deacon. That's what it was, not elder, a deacon. And so we used to stay there on the weekends and sneak to get together in the middle of the night or after her parents went to bed. But we couldn't sleep together. So, of course, when we did get into bed, we never slept anyway. Why do they call it I'd like to sleep with you. I slept with this guy, or I slept with this woman. No, you didn't. You wrestled and played all night. You didn't sleep. So, but we would go to their house, and Sundays was up, go to church. During that time, after I left college, when I was in seminary, I was the non-paid, non-official youth pastor for the youth. So I would get up and do the youth stuff, and we do church, and then we also had Sunday evening services. And so we would have Sunday morning, Sunday evening, and in between that was dinner. Her mom always made a big meal, roast or something like that. And then it was nappy time. So, or that's where I could say, I'm going to go take a nap with my girlfriend. I don't think we slept much ever. So anyway, Sundays have become non-secular or become non-religious. They're secular days now, especially in the schools. What do you think of that? I think I might bring in Uncle Dave, who's out there in the wings, and maybe we'll talk about this a little bit. Uncle Dave,
good morning.
How you doing, sir?
Oh my God! Yesterday was a long, long day. We did a big Mardi Gras banquet at the lodge, and so
nice.
I'm
sure a lot like the blue and gold Cub Scout banquet.
it was, except spicier food and more cocktails, and
yeah.
I'm betting that
we had no cocktails yesterday.
I bet those little ones did pound away hurricanes last night.
Yeah, really. Can I have another one of these? Make it a double.
I like the fruit punch.
I like it, yeah. No, we had pizza. It was one of the local places. It makes pretty good pizza, but it was thin crust, which I like.
Yeah, that's what I like.
I like thin crust on the rarest of occasions. I like to order a pizza that's the thick, but you're just eating bread with cheese on it, basically. Cheese and tomato sauce. So I like the thin crust, or you got to go all the way and go deep dish. I want the 4-inch deep piece of pizza. So
your comments before you brought me on made me remember this joke where the husband says, "Honey, how many men did you sleep with before we were married?" She goes, "Oh, none."
0.
And he goes, "Really? Oh yeah, I've only ever slept with you. All the others kept me up all night."
There it is. I got that question from my wife once very early on. And so I'm sitting there. I'm a typical guy. And well, how many women have you? I don't know if she said sleep with. She might have said had sex with. I don't remember. But I go, just a few. And she goes, well, name them. I'm like, what do you want to know this for? I think this is before we were married. And she says, how about just in the last 2 years? I go, I can't remember. And that was like,
I'll tell you why she asked that. It's because during the whole Scotch and cookies phase, especially, you were starting to get kind of a reputation.
From who? I never heard this.
From just the people that attended there, because there's always, and we would say, okay, we would kick back and say, I think her and her and her are going to all, and they would linger at the end of the night. They do the long, slow goodbye, wanting to be the last one to maybe say, maybe I should just stay the night.
It happened. I've
had a little bit too much scotch.
There was one in particular that I won't name her, but
we don't need to out anybody. But there would be this jockeying of position as the night went by. Girls moving to sit next to Scotty or sit on the floor by his feet or whatever. Like you were holding court. Oh my God, it was funny back in those days.
I remember that was there was one night we had about 6 or 7 of us left, and it was after midnight. And by the way, folks, for those of you who don't know, every Thursday night I had open door. We called it Scotch and Cookies. It got named because I had scotch and I baked cookies for the first couple of people that used to come.
And it started because 4 or 5 women wanted to hang out with Scotty one night.
It was interesting. It started with one person who didn't want to hang out with me in that respect. She needed advice. and about something. And so, because she was trying to date a friend of mine who was married.
And she liked that
Anyway,
advice so much, she went to her friends and said, I was over at Scotty's house. That old guy? Yeah, that old guy. And he gave me great advice.
mind you, this was 20 years ago, so I wasn't as old. It was back when I was still young enough to attract my then 20 years younger than me wife, who is still here. She hasn't left yet. But
There must have been some damn
anyway,
good cookies.
we had one night, it was, I'll name her because we've talked about this in public and she jokes about it, even on Facebook. Jules, remember Jules?
Yes.
We played strip poker or strip chess. She claimed she was a chess master. And I said, I'm pretty good at chess. And she goes, I'll challenge you to a game of chess. And she goes, let's up the ante. Let's do strip chess. For every piece you lose, you got to lose a garment, a piece of your clothing. And I said, should I take this one on? And we had an audience of about 6 or 7 people still there that were like, yes, do the strip chess. And so we played strip chess. And I just happened to remember this because of the number of garments she had to take off during the course of the night. She not only wore a bra, she had a tank top, and then she had one of those skimpy little sweaters, kind of a shirts on over the tank top and the bra, and then one of those skimpy little short, rolled up, pushed up sleeve sweaters. And and so it was like, wow, let's see, how many moves will it take to get her naked? Sorry, folks, if this is prurient talk for you on a Sunday morning. If my daughter can have volleyball practice on Sunday morning, I can talk about strip chess. And so, you're calculating in your mind. Let's see, sweater, shirt, bra, tank top, jeans, panties, 2 pairs of socks, 2 shoes. You're calculating.
Was she wearing a skirt over her jeans? That was all the way.
I don't think she did that night. But so it got down to, I think I was sitting in my undies with a pillow on my lap, and she was down to, I think all she had left on was panties or something. And I was like, and she's got a pillow, and we're all laughing. We're all drinking, of course. And so that happened. I had a Scotch and cookies. Now, not all Scotch and cookies were sexually charged like that one ended up being.
No.
But my daughters, I remember I told this story once. My daughters, back in that day, they were 14, I think.
12.
It was just before Raini came on the scene. They might have been 13. 12 or 13. And they're sitting on either side of my desk after school one day. And out of the blue, so Dad. Yes, daughters? Scotch and cookies. How many of the women who come to Scotch and cookies have you had sex with? And I went, what?
See, I told you, people talk about that.
I said, where did that question come from? And, I tried to hide it from my kids. I don't know that they started calling me man whore somewhere in their 20s, but because of that, it was a joke. But I said, no, I think the question was, have you ever slept with anybody from? And I said, no. I said, that's not an appropriate question to ask me. Meanwhile, I'm laughing. I'm starting to laugh because of and they go, uh-huh. They go, busted, because I was laughing. And they said, and then they started naming names. Well, Dad, how about so-and-so? And I said, that's not your business. Uh-huh, that's one. And they went through this list. And I don't want to give the wrong impression, folks. I wasn't like, Scotty Roberts, male gigolo, or anything like that. I was just a normal guy.
Because I got the impression you were.
I was just a normal guy. Normal guy, single dad.
Who had a different woman stay over every Thursday night.
Well, there was one in particular that she was one of the. She was I don't think she was an official dancer at Fest. I don't think so. Belly dancer. But are
we talking about a short woman whose first name starts with D?
Yeah, that's it. And um, and so it was. But she was one of the ones that would linger till the end of the event. And the event never really ended until I made breakfast for people in the morning that all were on the sofas and stuff, and they had to go to work. And so I'd cook them pancakes or omelets and send them off to work, the last 4 that were there. But it was on the nights when nobody else was there, and she would just linger, and suddenly she was the only one there. And it was like, well, hi. And the only problem was, at this time, it was before Rainy, so I was 42, 43 years old, and she was like 21. And people that you would think would not be attracted to somebody twice their age. And but that was week after week after week on Thursdays that happened with that person. And that's the only time we ever talked to each other or saw each other. It was Thursdays. So I don't know how we got off on that tangent. I don't know how I
don't know, because we were talking about the secularness of
school. Yeah, there's the segue. Secular society on a Sunday. But we got there.
But to your defense, that was Thursday night. So what happens on Thursday night is not the same as what happens on Sunday morning.
Kat says, did somebody say steak? Yeah, exactly. I said steak somewhere along the way. So sorry, I'm not meaning to have brought any of that up to say, look at my sexual prowess. No, that wasn't it. It's just a funny story now. It's my past. And
we were all Randy.
Oh, it's because I was talking about Rainy, the sleeping with somebody. And Rainy had asked me, and it made me think of my daughters asking me, and that segued into all that. But Rainy asked me once, she said, so how many people have you slept with? I don't know if she said slept or sex. And I went, because you're being honest. This is somebody who's a potential mate that you're starting to hang out with more and more. And I said, well, said a handful. Well, 2 handfuls.
You have large hands, dude.
Wait a minute. And then I went, and then she brought up, well, what about so and so? Oh yeah, there you go. And she ended up with some huge number for me, which in my memory was, I thought I was a pretty clean kid. I didn't think I slept around, but and I certainly didn't prior to the only person I ever had sex with before my first wife was my first wife. And I was pretty clean in between. It wasn't until, as most of you know, Rainy's my 3rd wife, but we've been together 18 years now. But that in between my first set of 3 kids, Abby, Brennan, and Sam, when I was divorced from their mom, it was like,
you made up for lost time.
Oh, Jesus. And I was divorced. It was 22 years ago, 23 years ago that we were divorced. So I was 40. That's when it hit, the crazies, as they call it. And, single guy, single dad. I had sole custody of my 3 kids, and who were with me full time. And managed to find time to
sleep with a basketball
some wild oats. And so, Elderberry, you're just easy, Scotty, willing to help out wherever. That's the truth. I'm just a giving sort of guy, and willing to help out. No, you know what happened though? When I was, you and I were both really big at festival during that time, and not being braggadocious. We were just notable characters out there. We were outgoing, and everybody knew us. And when I was divorced from my 3 kids' mom, and I was single, it was like at the time, it went around that Scotty is now an available bachelor.
Oh yeah.
Somebody told me, do you realize you are the most available bachelor out at, and I didn't see myself that way. I just come out of a marriage that lasted 13 years. And I said, no, I don't realize that. But I did have a lot of, at 40 years old,
at 40
A lot
years
of
old, you had a lot of Errol Flynn-esque like
I
quality.
did. When I was younger and skinnier and had dark hair, I had some Errol Flynn-esque type of qualities. But my what was I gonna say? Oh, I had these. It was like 20 somethings at festival, kind of crawling out of the woodwork. Were like, oh, do you need a shoulder to cry on? Would you like some coffee? I can come over tonight. I'll bring a bag. And I'm like, that happened to me. And not that I'm God's gift anymore. I'm an old man. Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64? So my wife still loves me and still, I don't know if she needs me really, but she loves me. She keeps me around,
And
pats
she
me on
feeds
the
you.
head every now and then.
She feeds you.
And she
And
feeds me.
small amounts of rat poison, as far as we know.
Yeah,
Nothing
yeah,
really big.
just small amounts. So that reminds me, way off topic, but rat poison. We were in history class in seminary, biblical history we were taking, and we were talking about some of these obscure kings mentioned in the Old Testament and how they interplayed and some of the real history behind them. And it was Dr. Charles Ayling was our professor for that, who was he was an Egyptologist, an archaeologist. He was the guy, if you remember the Amenhotep II series I'm in, during the week I mentioned that he was the guy that first put me on to, at 11 years old, I met with him to get information about the Pharaoh of the Exodus at church. And he was the one that told me Amenhotep II and really put me on that track. Well, he recruited me 11 years later to be in the seminary, which he was then the president of. And then he went on to become chair of history at Northwestern University in the University of Northwestern, not to be confused with Northwestern University in St. Paul. And he went on, I think, to become the president of the Near Middle East Biblical Archaeological Society. And I think he's retired now. He's got to be in his late 70s. And I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, but he was telling us the history of this king. And I don't remember the name of the king at this point. It was an anecdote. He goes, oh, by the way, this guy, he says, and by the way, Charles Ayling, short, bald, wore horn-rimmed glasses, and he talked like this. Oh my. He was your typical Dr. Bunsen, whatever he was from the Muppets. He had that kind of persona. And oh my, I've got to tell you about this king. And he was so afraid of being poisoned to death that he used to start off small and he would drink poison and get his body adapted to it. And then he says, by the end of his reign, he's drinking goblets of the stuff. I remember him going like, goblets of the stuff. And he says, and then so they're surrounded by, I think it was the Israelite army or something, and or some other army. And there is a siege, and he's going to commit suicide. He says, what does he do? He picks up a goblet of poison and drinks, and it doesn't work. He says he finally had to run himself through with his own sword. And he said, which is an icky way to go. He says, but he had so grown a tolerance for poison, he says, that he couldn't even poison himself to death. So on that point. So there, now you've all learned something. Anecdotally, you can take that to work tomorrow and at the water cooler, wherever you take a break, and go, there was this ancient king that used to. So, Elderberry says, okay. You're just easy. He said, I'm just easy like Sunday morning. Hey, welcome to It's Sunday.
He's not easy. He's complicated.
I'm complicated.
I don't care what they say.
Yeah, Morgan, that's irony at its best. So, Morgan Snow says, laughing my ass. I was done that with poker. I think she's talking about strip chess.
Yeah.
So Jules and I, now that would have been back in probably 2004. It's the same year I met Raini.
And that's before she was with her significant other.
Oh, yeah. She got married a couple of years after that. But
I don't think they were even dating at the time.
I don't think they were dating yet. No.
He was.
And Jules, by the way,
he was very possessive.
If I could think of an actress, it's a great visual picture. Jules, who I played strip chess with, She reminds me in my memory a bit of Melanie Griffith in her early days.
Her and the woman that played in Dharma and Greg.
Oh, yes. The woman who played in Greg and Dharma. Or was it Dharma and Greg?
Dharma and Greg, I think.
I can't think of the actress's name. Jules had that kind of look about her, and she was in her early 20s at the time, and so but she was a regular at Scotch and Cookies. So
on that, so traveling forward,
yes,
from the Portland house to the Larpenter house. So I remember Scotty's life. It's all a fragment of houses that
which house we lived in at the time.
But your mom's old place.
My mom's old place that we took over, right?
The photo that we've shown on occasion of you and me and Rainey, the pirate hats, that early Friday morning after a Scotch and cookie night.
I actually thought that was the Yule party we held.
Oh, was it? Maybe it was the Yule party.
I think that I saw one of those old pictures and it said Yule, 2005.
In the first pictures in that series, because there's like 5 of them that were taken, Jules is on her knees in front of me with her head turned around to the camera.
Oh, that's right. Rainey's on my lap, or she's on your lap.
No, Rainey was on your lap, I think.
Oh, Rainey was on my knee.
And Jules jumped down in front of me and spun around like she was surprised.
She got on her knees in front of me, put her head in my lap, and then turned around like she was being surprised and caught on camera. Yeah, I've seen that. I remember that picture. That was a Yule party, so that we threw at that house. So, yeah, we were all just normal people having fun, and we weren't swingers or anything like that. That wasn't going on.
There was
not to give that wrong
no
impression
sex at any of those parties.
There was
all that happened after the party.
That was all post party. That was the after show. That was the captain's cabin.
Yeah, literally.
So Jenna Elfman says Cat. Oh, that's who played Dharma.
Yeah.
And then it was funny in the series Lost that the secret organization, the big conspiracy, was the company Dharma.
Yeah.
I don't know why that popped in my head. Lost. That was one of those shows. I wasn't into it at the beginning. Didn't care. I had better things to do and watch TV. And I started watching that with Rainey. And I hated that show. I absolutely hated Lost, but I watched it every week. I hated it because at the end of every episode, you're like this. You go, I hate this show. The end of the episode comes, you go, what the fuck? No. And you were just glued until the next episode aired. And you were like, because I hated that show because it put me in angst every whatever night it came on. Kat says, I'm a walking encyclopedia of useless knowledge. Kat, you and me both. I used to be really good at Trivial Pursuit, which was just a game of useless knowledge.
Which was another thing that would occasionally happen on a Scotch and Cookie night.
Yeah, useless knowledge night.
My favorite, this is a little bit of a left turn, but my favorite thing from Dharma and Greg is I think in the pilot or one of the very first episodes, she's on a train with Greg. Greg is in the bathroom or whatever.
Right.
And his phone starts ringing in his pants pocket. So she reaches down and answers the phone. It's his mom calling, and she goes, just the way she answered, Greg's pants, he's not in them right now. Can I help you?
Nice.
And nice. I've always loved that line.
I love when now Rainey has done this. She doesn't do this every time. Obviously, there was a time where she picked up my phone and we weren't doing anything. We were just sitting there. My phone was on the other side of her.
You sure say that a lot. Like you have to.
She picked it up and she goes, Scotty's phone. That was great. So yes.
When I was with my first fiance, and I don't know, you just made me think
first
of
of many. Dave didn't get married a lot.
5 times.
Dave had a lot of fiancés.
My first fiance, we're in college. I have in my fraternity bedroom at the fraternity house, I had my bed lofted, and I
Yep.
had a nightstand up there. Literally, it took a like an 8-foot ladder to climb up into bed, and we
Nothing
were,
like spontaneity.
yeah,
In
we
an
were,
hour, when we get to the top.
we we were deep into actions, and the bed was rocking. And the phone rang, and
It's
and
down the ladder.
no, it's on the headboard, right, just less than a foot away from me, and I don't know what possessed me. We're right in the middle of stuff, and I'm like, "Oh, hello."
Hello?
We're right in the middle,
Did you smack it
and
out of your
and,
hand?
and she looks at me, and I'm like, "Oh, hi, mom."
It's my mom. I gotta answer.
Well,
Hold
I
that.
didn't know it was
Hold
her,
that pose.
and Sheila was laughing so hard, and we were trying not to stop, and I'm trying to carry on this conversation and get off the phone at the same time.
And get
Oh
off at
my
the
god,
same time. Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, Philip Blair.
And she's like, I just can't believe you answered the phone. And I'm like, just a reaction. I'm sorry. The phone rang and I answered it.
It's a reaction, yes. What did Elderberry say that was true? Let's see. Elderberry. Philip, he said. Well, he must have said something else. Yes, the 70s and 80s were the best. Then 90s politics screwed up everyone. Ain't that the truth? You know,
Yeah,
all my
big time.
old friends at the festival, and here's funny, the transitory nature of life. Like I said of Dave and I, at one point we were fairly well known. Everybody loved us. We loved everybody. It was a fun time at Fest. Nowadays, there's fewer of the people that I hung with out there that are still there. But the King is one of them. He's still there, and but getting older. How old is he now? Is he pushing 60?
Johnny?
Yeah. He was, I think he
No, because
was
he's
10
younger
years
than I am.
younger than I was.
He's got to be in his late 40s or early 50s.
He was always a bodybuilder, not your big burly type like this. I mean, like, we would pump you up. He worked out, and he was very well defined. He was a good looking guy. He was a chick magnet, or a womanizer, however you want to put that.
His brother was on the TV show
Oh yeah,
Roswell.
Roswell. His brother was one of the lead roles on Roswell, if you remember that series. And so, what was I going to say about him? Oh, he's still out there. But politics, exactly. Who said that? Elderberry. What changed my relationship with people at the festival was my politics. And I noticed that about the time of the Kavanaugh hearings. The time I stood up for one of my friends from out there that was accused of rape, which I wasn't there, but I know didn't happen, and I knew it at the time. And he was just not, that was not his character. We were all, ask Dave, Dave was one of us, we were all naughty, but none of us ever did anything anybody
and
with
Johnny
no
was
consent.
one of the naughtiest.
Yeah,
but
Johnny was one of the naughtiest out there.
Her story never rang true.
No.
And her and I'm not, I don't want to get into this, but I'm just going to say what she said happened, and where she said it happened, and when she said it happened could never have happened.
It could never have happened. And then she changed her story. Let me set the stage, I don't want to make this a big long segment, but my friend Carr, he played a very high profile role out at the festival. He played a character called the Rat Catcher,
and he was entertainment director.
And he was, well, I was getting to that. And he became entertainment director and the creative director of the festival. But his role, the Rat Catcher, he never spoke a word out there. He just
grunted,
did stuff, antics on the street, and he gathered crowds of hundreds just watching him, the things he would do. And he was an amazing theatrical performer. But in real life, he was many other things. He was a writer, a business manager. He would be the guy that was hired by Guinness to come over to Ireland and speak to about all this business management type of stuff. He was fairly well-to-do. He was considered, I remember old articles of him back in 2003. There was an article on the local section of the newspaper in Minneapolis where it showed his picture sitting in his library study. And they're talking about Carr being one of the part of Minnesota intellectuals, labeling him along with guys like Garrison Keillor and people like that as far as that intellectual writer's status. And so this is the kind of person he was. He's a couple of years older than me, but this young 20-something girl accused him of rape. And it came out right during the Kavanaugh. Remember the Judge Kavanaugh hearings and the Me Too movement and all that is when that hit. And you were not anybody at the festival unless you hopped on the bandwagon to say, because she said so, he did it. And they all condemned him ahead of time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I remember Carr talking to me, and he was just a little bit beside himself. It was at the very beginning of this. And he says, I can't believe this is happening to me. And he said, since these accusations were made, he says, I've lost my publishing contracts. He did voiceovers on radio. I've lost my voiceover contracts. He says, I have no work. And it's all over somebody's accusation. And so this whole thing played out. It started then. That was Kavanaugh hearings. Remember that? Over 4 years ago. Carr's trial finally happened in the fall of this last year. Fall or spring. Now I can't remember. I'm mixing my dates up. But suffice it to say, 4 years. There's things I know that I'm not supposed to be able to talk about. But put it this way, use your imagination. Imagine a company, an entertainment company like the festival, and they have insurance for this stuff, and somebody makes that claim, and they get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's those types of scenarios that could happen. And I don't know. I don't know if it happened in Carr's situation, but his accuser, when it came time for trial 2 years ago, she couldn't come up because she now lived out of state, and
she was afraid of
COVID.
Yeah.
And so the judge put it on with prejudice, dismissed it with prejudice, meaning if she wants to, she can redo the case. Well, then she never wanted to redo it. You know why? She made out like a bandit. But then the state prosecutor wanted to keep pursuing it. The prosecutors wanted to pursue it because, I don't know if it was state or Scott County, but they wanted to pursue it because they'd had a Jones for the festival for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
Gotta nail someone at the festival. That place is a place of debauch and whatever. And somebody had it in their craw. And so they pushed it, and she came up because COVID, you're now clear to come up. Came up for trial, and of course he was acquitted. Totally dismissed and acquitted and whatever. He had a jury of 12. 75% of those jurists were women, and which meant 8 women, 4 men. Is that right? 8 or 9 women and 3 men. 9 women and 3 men. And her story was so plugged full of holes, it was unbelievable. And the key thing was they had the festival investigator came up to testify. And Carr's lawyer asked him, so on the basis of your opinion, his opinion was he was testifying for the plaintiff, for the girl who had been raped, in her own words. And she said, so then what did you make note of with the videos that were presented on of Carr? And he said, I'm not sure what videos you're talking about. She flips her paper. She goes, well, you're the investigator for the festival, right? Yes. And she said, did you go to the festival's Facebook page? And did you look at all the videos? Did you go back to the date that this supposedly happened? Did you go back and view those? No, I missed that. It's right there in public. It's on the, well, anyway, did you see the videos of the time of the rape? the supposed rape. No. And she showed a series of videos where Carr, her rapist, was doing live videos from the stage, going out to the public from different stages. Come on down to the festival. You can see this act, and they're doing their thing. And he went from stage to stage and did several different videos. She goes, now the timestamp on these are all during, before, and after this rape was supposed to have taken place. And the room where it happened, crowded room, up in the green room above one of the big festival buildings that is so packed with people all the time, changing costumes, doing junk, whatever,
dropping
taking
off
a break.
props, picking up props, just hanging and chatting.
And the room, she said, where it took place was where they store all the big drums for the drum jam. And there's like no walking space even in that room, but he supposedly raped her in there.
It's a closet it's
a closet.
I had it as a dressing room for a short time. It is a closet that is 8 foot by 5 foot. And they store the timpanis in there now.
The big timpani drums. And of course, her first original story was he raped her during the drum jam, which happens every night at festival, the last half hour of the festival. They gather all the drums out there and hundreds of people dance to the drum jam. And guess who's the leader of the drum jam?
Carr.
The accused rapist, Carr. So then she changed her story. That's why it turned out to be the closet where the drums are. I got confused. And well, you can't even move in there. So, which wouldn't necessarily prevent a rapist. But then Carr told me, and a couple of other people have verified this to me, in the courtroom, the lawyer asks, so how many times did Carr, the rapist, how many times did he ejaculate? She asked. A sensitive question. And she said 5 times in the time that he raped her. And Carr said, I looked at the jury and he says, all 3 of the male members, you could have seen them, they all went. He says, I thought if they could have, they would have stood up and go, we should have quit this case right now because that's not possible. And so there was all this kind of stuff. Well, Carr was exonerated. Eventually, something we all knew. But during that period, this whole thing built off of my reputation at the festival, because the festival is comprised, especially nowadays with the newer set that's been coming in of people, the entertainers, they're all as far left and supposedly what they call progressive and all Me Tooers. And the guys that aren't really Me Tooers and don't really give a damn about any of that stuff say Me Too because the girl they want to screw is a Me Tooer. And sorry to put it so indelicately.
True, though.
That's the way guys are. Are you a liberal? You want to go to bed? If you're a liberal, yeah, hell yeah, I'm a liberal. But so they're all that way. And when I came out and I heard all these people who didn't even know Carr, didn't know the girl who claimed rape, cried wolf. And by the way, from what I understand, it wasn't her first time doing that in life. There was a pastor somewhere in her past too. So the accusations made, everybody gossips about it on social media from the festival. I didn't see one person stand for Carr. The closest I saw was somebody saying, well, none of us were really there. We don't know what happened. That's about as close as I saw. And I came right out.
Because most people were afraid to.
They didn't want to get canceled.
Carr because instantly you were just done.
Mm-hmm. According to them. And so I came out and I said, and I was a member of this group. I said, hey, I happen to know Carr. I said, I've known him for 25 years. I said, this is not in his wheelhouse of character. He would never rape anybody. And I said, did you know? And even back then, 4 years ago, the stories had already changed a couple of times. And I had all these people jumping on me. Oh, you're a rape defender. And I said, no, I'm a defender of my friend. I said, you don't know he committed rape. I said, I happen to know he didn't. I said, I know as well as I know Uncle Dave, but none of us would have ever engaged in raping somebody. Now, were we naughty out at the festival? Hell yeah. All of us were naughty people. You know, I had sex in the throne at night with somebody. You know, it happens.
That throne got so much action.
That throne, it was on an open air arbor and there were thrones. Yeah, that throne got a lot of action, I think, at night. But so we were all naughty. We all had our share of stuff and dalliances and all of that. But
okay, let's just put it this way. There was like a bingo card out at festival with all the prominent locations, the
bingo!
Pavilion, the front gate,
yes.
the throne, and stuff like
the
that.
The edge
and
of the crown stage.
Anytime you had dalliances, I'm going to say politely,
the
at the location, you could mark off one of those squares.
Yeah.
And sure enough, people were getting bingo all the time.
I had sex on the live action chess stage. It was queen to queen's level 3. No, queen to pawn 4 and pawn far. If you're a Star Trek fan, so all of us did those things, but I knew Carr better than that.
Mid-festival day on the grounds in front of a crowd of people,
and there, yes, yeah. Well, we once had, remember, with 10 Seconds of Harmony. We had the monk's robes were our costume that we all came in with. We were all nobility and we all disguised ourselves and then came in and had a body drinking, singing time. That was our little stage show we did twice a day out there on top of all the other stuff we did. And so we would sell thong panties with our logo that had our faces all on them. For 10 Seconds of Harmony, stamped on the little triangle on the back of the thong panties. And we did little tattoos of those, you know, where you lick the skin and you stick them on. And we had so many women that after our show, we're standing on the site with 20,000 people wandering around us. And she said, "Will you give me one of those panties for free if I put it on?" And in front of you was kind of the whole thing. And so we would form a circle and open up the monk's robes. And she had a dressing room right in the middle of 20,000 people wandering around, stripped down to her bottoms and put on these thong panties. Or they'd have us, I had one person, you know who this person is, a patron, but somebody I hung out with quite a bit after that. But she wanted a tattoo. And she wanted to put it on one of her ample bosom. Is bosom? Is that the single of bosoms? Is bosoms a plural word? Or does bosom stand for the whole thing? On one of those, and she wanted me to, of course, lick it to get the. And that was outstanding in the middle of the public, and it was safe. You know, I had people. Oh, guardsmen. Good friend of mine who was a belly dancer out there and also tended one of the pubs a couple hours a day. And as part of the show, "I've lost a cherry in my cleavage. Would you get it out for me?" I said, "Why, yes, madam." And I pull my gloves up and she goes, "Oh, no hands." I said, "Well, however shall I do that?" And she had the little stem would be sticking out. And so I'd have to bob for cherries in her cleavage. And this was somebody you know as well. She was probably equally as gorgeous as Raini. So you would know the person if I named her. I'm not going to name her. We had a falling out over my daughters, and I yelled at her. And that went all over that I'm a woman abuser because I yelled at her. I yelled her up is what I did. And this was several years later. But anyway, so that kind of stuff always went on out there. There was tomfoolery. There was, a lot of sexual innuendo. But that was in certain shows. There were some stage shows that were pure family oriented. Good comedy, good music, interaction with the royals, and all of that was all very well done. Hey, Ken Ballos, good to see you, brother. You should call in. Talk around the table with Scotty Roberts and friends.
I
So-
had a lady, and I say lady, not wench, because she was wearing a hoop skirt. Put the Scotsman down. I was laying on the meadow out in front of Bad Manor back when it was grassy.
Way
before
public green out there.
People going in every direction. She came and plopped down on top of me, let her hoops settle around us.
Yep.
And said, "You look hot." And she was rising up and down on her knees.
I'm air conditioning you.
Yeah. So her hoop was like a big billowing thing.
Old
and when people looked over, she goes, "He's overheated. I'm just fanning him."
Yeah.
And I thought, we are getting fired. We're getting fired.
I'm getting fired. I'm getting my pink slip within the hour. But Elderberry says it was the Dems' first attack on truth for this reason. Kavanaugh making himself cry. Fakers all. Yeah, I don't know. The thing is, Kavanaugh didn't deserve any of that.
Nope. No, and that was so ridiculous too. It was so ridiculous.
Anyway, all this festival talk is coming up because we were just making the point that
because we were talking about whether or not schools were secular and having I was going to say rehearsal practices on Sunday morning.
Here's Ryan's comment. Even Chuck Norris can't ejaculate 5 times. Excellent, Ryan. I missed that. So, yeah, all of this to say is that...
Saying that to say this, as Ruben
saying all that to say this, I had my friend that was accused. It wasn't true. He was exonerated. He was found innocent. Charges dismissed. She ran away in shame, I hope. All the detractors at the festival were like, "Oh, what a miscarriage of justice." It's
and if I were the festival, I'd sue her for that money.
Yeah, I think you should. Oh, better yet, remember, he's an author.
No,
a couple of years ago, he said, "I'm working up a pretty good book." And it's not your nasty, stupid, seedy, rag sheet type of tell-all. It's a very intellectual approach to what happened and what happens to a man if somebody accuses him. And he lost his career. He's just starting. It's all starting to rebuild for him now a bit. But you know what it did for him? The festival, a place.
Look at Johnny Depp.
Yeah. It was a Johnny
huge
Depp
profile. Yeah. And just because she said he abused her, everything
gets fired from Disney.
In the course of Disney, the Harry Potter films.
Yep.
We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars overnight disappearing because some woman makes a comment in a rag.
He loses his role in that Harry Potter, the second Harry Potter film where he played Grindel, whatever. And you know what I'm talking about. And all that went away because of an accusation of physical abuse.
Which wasn't there. And what kills me is everybody that knew him, his exes, everybody went, "Oh no, not Johnny." Yeah. That's so not Johnny.
That's not Johnny.
And yet people were so quick to just jump on the bandwagon, throw him under the bus and do whatever.
Remember in court, he was asked, "Would you ever work for Disney again?" He says, "Not for $300 million. And so now he's working for Disney again. He has been seen at Disney World in costume as Jack Sparrow. It's purported that he's going to appear in some role as Jack Sparrow in the next Pirates movie, even a small way. So my theory is this. He said
they offered him a lot more.
I wouldn't work for Disney for $300 million. Well, maybe he got more than $300 million for this. Oh, $350 million? So where do I sign?
Do it for 6?
Where do I sign? I wouldn't turn down a job for
and let's face it, that would replace what he lost. So
yeah.
And
So
maybe they feel obligated. I don't know.
yeah, I hope so. I really hope so. How can you take away a person's livelihood and reputation based on an accusation alone that's not been proven
It
in a
happens.
court of law? It happens every day. So,
I'm not going to get into I don't want to dig up the whole past, but
yeah,
I experienced that. It happens.
yeah, I remember.
And it was all a lot of BS. It took a long time to sort out. And in the end, what came of it, it was all because I had been offered a gig that her dad got fired from.
Yeah,
And she was trying to get me fired so her dad could get that gig back.
sure.
So stupid.
So yeah, this is the stuff that happens, and this is the crowd of people that then labeled me because I stood for my friend Carr, labeled me as being a rape defender. Oh, you're just a defender of rapists. I said, why don't you shut up and go home and grow up a little bit? And the problem they all had with me, I didn't back down to their insipid little barbs. You know, that kept going on. And I answered them. And I said, no, that is not so. Have you considered this and this? And the problem was, and when they'd finally do their mic drop and block me. I'm not talking to you anymore. Mic drop and block me. Not because they thought I was a
During the whole
rapist
car
defendant, but
thing,
because they could not, their argument would not withstand scrutiny.
During the whole car thing, I had several women that I've done long time, like 30-year friends with.
Mm-hmm.
That I said, I understand what you're saying, and believe me, I'm all about when a woman says this happened, you need to look at every corner. You need to understand, But I said at the same time, women say things that aren't true,
just like men do.
And I said, you have to look at what is she gaining from it. What caused this to develop in the first place? And I said, and more importantly, does her story ring true?
And none of those worked for this woman.
And I said, the only part of her story that made sense, because I've seen Carr lose his temper. She described how that he was prior to the thing, and then how he just snapped and lost his temper. And I went,
she said it all started because she was wearing, a bunch of the women at Fest were wearing the little pink bows, which stood for Me Too or something like that.
Yeah, they formed some sort of thing, and they were all wearing special.
And he ridiculed, according to her story, ridiculed her for wearing that and ripped it off of her, and that's what started the rape. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think that's how it started either. But the way she described him,
I don't think anything
from having conversation to losing his temper, I'm like, oh yeah, when Carr loses his temper, it's quick. It's just like a snap of a finger.
Yep.
Okay. So I said, that's the only thing out of her entire story. So I said, I believe that he lost his temper and yelled at her.
Yep. Very
because
possible.
the way she described it. But
he told me he didn't even know who she was when it first came out, and he got arrested for it.
Yeah.
He didn't even know who she was.
Yeah. But everything else I said in that story, I said none of it makes sense. And so on multiple conversations, because it wasn't just one woman, it was several women that
yep.
we ended friendships over. Anyways, each time I would say, you've been to Manor. You've been in the Manor many times. You've been in the Manor during a day during the show. I said, explain, just show me one place, any place in the Manor that this event could have happened.
Somebody could have done
on a festival Saturday. You just because I said, because it was unclear in the way the story originally broke as to what room it happened in, because they weren't saying that.
She didn't know.
Right.
But make it up as she went along.
Right. But initially it happened on the second floor in the Manor. And I said, just name a room that could happen
during a feast.
Yeah.
During one of the feasts of fantasy. going on downstairs.
And I said, just show me what room that could happen in. And none of them could, because there's no place during a show, well, even between shows, where there wouldn't be 40 or 50 people within earshot.
Yep.
And I said, not to mention the fact, be anywhere on site as a woman and yell for help, and 12 men with swords are next to you.
That's
in 30 seconds or less.
When my daughters first started coming to festival, well, they always came with me when they were young, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, 10 years old. And then there was a couple of years they didn't go out there. And they came out when they were, let's see, I'm trying to think of what the...
Are you talking the belly dancing costumes?
Yeah, with Kelly Joe.
14.
14. And they were already...
13 or 14, right in there.
Well,
right
no, they already had bodies of 18-year-olds. So,
but they were living at the Portland house,
right? And so 14 years old or more. It might have been a little.
I would
bit
say
after
13
that.
because
it might have been after that, because remember, I resigned from festival, retired in 2005 after the 2005 season, but I was back.
But KJ was living with you at the Portland house.
But I was back in the 2007 season to do the Tam O'Hare stuff on stage.
Yeah.
It was Carr invited me back to do that.
But no more than 14. No more than 14.
Right in that range. But I thought they were 16 at the time. It might have been the Tam O'Hare stage. I don't know for sure.
Well, that's when you were with
Joe
Raini.
had them out in belly dance costumes. And I had more guys that I knew out there coming up to me, and I saw Nate Favia. He came up to me and he's wagging his finger at me. He goes, You didn't tell me that was Abby and Bryn. I did not recognize them. I apologize. I didn't do anything. I'm like, dude, it's okay. It's okay. And we did have literally men with swords and knives on their belts that knew how to use them, that defended my daughters out there. They were always standing in the wings wherever my daughters were. And they'd like give the high sign. They're coming your way. They're coming your way. Be ready. And so it was fantastic. It was a great little network out there but all of this talk came up by saying that my time at Fest, where I had good reputation and people liked me for the most part, I had a high profile out there, turned into the bulk of those people hating me and disliking me because I stood for my friend against the politic of the day and of the crowd. And it was the politics. You mentioned it's the politics that changed everything out there. And the new cancel culture, the new political correctness, when all of that started, and the bulk of those people out there, well, we're actors. Our boots are more expensive than our cars type of people, and I'm a hippie, and
that was true in our youth.
I have dreads, and patchouli, and I'm a Me Tooer, and all of these people, and some of those were people that came to Scotch and Cookies, and all that might imply. Yet they ended up on that side of that because it was the politic of the vox politico of festival. And I said, I will not be brought under by the power of anybody's insinuation. I said, if you are I told some of these people on social media, I said, you have just proven to me how weak-minded you are. And you are, and by the way, I didn't come out the gates talking that way. It was after lengthy conversations with people in public on social media. I said, this has just proven to me how weak-minded you are, that you are driven like cattle with, I said, how's that ring in your nose feel? I said, because you have to go along with the political voice. And by the way, might I add at this point regarding Carr, the person who pushed the young girl to make the rape accusation is somebody very well known, one of the highest female roles out there at the festival. Do your math. She pushed that because she had an old grudge with Carr where he yelled at her. And there were people that were witnesses, and he was on the stairway going up to the costume shop at Summer Palace backstage. They were arguing, and he got so angry he didn't do anything. He shook the railing. And she brought that up as how violent a person he is. I said, no, he was pissed off. And I saw her husband, who was present at the time for that, never said Carr was out of line, but stood up with his wife. And he said, I've seen him so angry out in the same location, Summer Palace, which is where the Royals hung out off stage. He got so pissed off, he kicked and threw a bench. What's different than shaking a railing and kicking and throwing a bench because you're pissed off? So things happen out there. I will just say this, that the people that pushed it were some people that had vendettas against him.
Yeah.
Wanted to see him taken down, and they succeeded because he was, of course, let go from his position at Fest. They said until this clears up. I don't think Fest believed it for a minute, but they had to go by what was going to be legally binding against them as the organization. And now Carr is like, he said during all this, he says, that's it. After 50 years at the festival, he was there from almost day one in the early 70s when his mom was an entertainer out there and he was a kid. He grew up out there.
Yeah.
And after 50 years, he said, I'm done with the place. I will never go out there. I will never darken the doors of the place again. And that was one of his big loves in life, was that place. So he says, I'm now moving that all into other things. Ryan says, I was once a patron. We called patrons that would come out in costume patrons. And he said at Fest never got involved in the politics. Yeah. Patrons usually aren't overly privy to all the behind the scenes politics. But Ryan, you knew a lot of us out there. All the guys from the 42nd Regiment with you were part of Festival. And so I think Ryan had a pretty good idea of what was going on, but getting involved is a different thing. So anyway, let's move on from that. Let's push all the Fest talk that way and just say that came up because we're talking about how Sundays have become secular.
Yeah. And to make my point of what I was saying earlier, it's weird that the coaches are saying, hey, let's have practice on Sundays because people are available, because we live in this weird life now where everybody, the kids, mom and dad, everybody have such busy schedules that scheduling practice, scheduling a play rehearsal, scheduling any of that stuff is difficult.
Yes.
And Sunday's the last day. It's an easy day to pick because most people aren't doing anything, because you should be in church on Sunday. You should be doing a family thing on Sunday. It's your day of rest. Mom and dad shouldn't be working. And the coaches used to lead that, in the sense of all the teachers at school, they were the ones that were more conservative. They were the ones that were still men of faith or women of faith, and sort of push those values still, when the rest of the teaching staff was saying, do whatever you want to do. I don't know. It's odd that they're the staff that are picking that day, but
yes.
But we've moved far afield from the days of our youth.
Oh, yes, we have. And it will only decline more and get worse and worse unless somebody pulls the plug on this bullshit. And so there it is. What else was I going to say? Where else did I want to go with this? Sunday mornings. Getting back to Sunday mornings. Morgan Snow says Sunday's my day off. I think that's what it's become for a lot of people. It's just a day off. It's no longer, and for whatever reason, I'm just talking about it, it's no longer a day of worship for many people. For the bulk of Americans, it's no longer a day of religious practice. I think it does come as a day of relaxation. It's a day off. Go out to the park, go out and watch a football game in the winter, do things on Sunday. I'm looking forward to the warm weather because I want to go do things with my kids.
Yeah.
And
even though, so, and you know me, I'm not a deeply religious person. I'm not, though I grew up in a church and I used to go to Sunday school and do all that stuff and was there every Sunday. My grandfather
Yeah.
was a minister. I am more spiritual now than anything, but for years and years, decades, I have refused work on Sundays and on and even rehearsals or anything. I'm just like, nope, I don't do that on Sunday.
Yeah.
I really,
I'm
even if I'm behind the eight ball on, if we were doing a mural, it would be like, well, tomorrow's Sunday, we won't paint.
Yeah. I've gotten to the place I'll work on Sunday if I have to. If I have a client who calls on me, wants me to do some work on a Sunday, I'll do it. But I also have days of the week where I don't work because I don't have work in.
Yeah.
So it comes and goes. You take it and you do it. And I try not to, but there's been many times I've skipped kid activities because I got a client who needs something. And
If a
I got to
client
take care of
calls
them if
me
I
on
want
a
to get paid.
Sunday, if a client calls me on a Sunday, I will usually say, well, I don't normally take business calls on Sunday. Tell me what it is you
Right.
need. And I'll
Right.
take their and I like throw that out there in advance.
Yes.
You're intruding on my life right now. But
Yes.
what is it you need? Okay.
But
I'll
it's
take all
okay
that
that you're intruding in
information
my life
down.
because I could
I'll
use your money.
right.
You know,
I'll take all
that's
the
the way we gotta
information
work.
down and I will call you on Monday with a plan.
We are basically business whores. So we'll do. I don't work
It's
on
because we're
Sunday, but if you
artists.
got money, I'll work from Sunday for you.
It's because we're
You know,
artists. But you know, it's
that's the
like
way it works.
we were okay. So I got up yesterday morning at 4 a.m., 2 hours before my alarm. Wasn't happy about it, but
Yeah.
had chores that had to be taken care of here at the house.
Yes.
Then I had my brother was supposed to be here at 8 to relieve me so I could take off and get the day started because we were cooking a banquet and there's
Right.
so much prep and things that have to be done. And he was an hour late. And that just created this cascading
Yeah.
of make because I've got an hour commute and I've told people I'd be in town by a certain time. I'm an hour behind that, and just everything that
That
happened.
Dave Potter is always late, is what comes out of that.
Yeah, well, but
It's like, you know what?
I haven't been that Dave Potter for a long time. There was
No,
a
no,
point in my
no, no.
youth
I'm
when
bringing it up is that's the reputation that gets built out of that.
right, but
It's one
in
of
my youth,
I had nothing to do with
that was
being
the
late
case.
today.
Yeah, in my youth, that was the case. Dave Potter was always late.
Well, that's
Yeah,
different. That's a different time.
I would say, I said I'd be. You said you would be here at 7. Well, it's 7:50. It's still 7-ish.
It's the hour of 7.
It
I said I'd be
hasn't
there in
rolled
the
over to
hour
8
of
yet.
7, not at 7
But
sharp.
I'm not that Dave anymore, and I'm much more on top of stuff. But the point being that when we got done after Harvey and I had put all this work in, and Luke was there. The three of us basically create this whole thing. The dinner is done. Everybody's talking about how amazing it was, what a great job we did, blah, blah, blah. And I said, who's on the cleanup crew? I haven't heard anybody from the cleanup crew.
Cleanup. And everybody looks around like.
The cleanup. And because I said, I've been up since 4. Harvey's been up since 7. We've worked our asses off all day long. We're going to both sit down for 20 minutes because we've been on our feet constantly.
It's like,
and I said, somebody should start doing dishes. Somebody should start sweeping. Somebody should clean up all. And they're all kind of looking at each other. And I said, we always have a cleanup crew after these banquets. Don't tell me you don't have a cleanup crew. So a bunch of people
we
chipped
didn't
in.
think of that. We thought the chef would do that.
Yeah, a bunch of people start chipping in and doing stuff. And then so dinner went to 10:30. We're rolling on to 12:30 now. Been there a couple hours doing cleanup. And people are like, well, I kind of need to go. And I said, hey, not a problem. It's late. There's an event in here tomorrow at noon. So if we could start at 7 in the morning and finish the cleanup and stuff, we probably won't work past 9:30. We can all be back here at 7. And they all kind of looked around and I said, or we could just stay for another hour and actually finish the damn job.
Let's just stay. Yeah.
We're here. And then we don't have to get up early tomorrow.
There it is.
And so people said, all right, but it's like,
Yeah,
Just
I know.
do it. And don't expect me to do it because I've been working my ass off all day long.
You know what that reminds me of? Did you ever remember the movie Local Hero? Filmed in Scotland, the little town of
Yes.
Penn,
Yes.
Scotland. And there were all
You've
these
been to
guys
that
that would
town, haven't
stand
you?
around, fishermen, and they were always painting the name on the boat and painting it out and repainting the name on the boat. And there was always a little baby carriage there with about a 1-year-old, 1.5-year-old baby.
Pram.
And the guy from Peter, what's his name, who played the Texas oil guy coming to procure the town. He's standing around. He's going, they're looking at the painting. They're all standing around. And at the end of the conversation, there's 4 guys standing there. And he says, that's a cute baby. Whose baby? And all the guys go, nobody. And then they cut to the scene. They cut the scene. That's what that reminds me of. Who's on the cleanup crew? So yeah, I get it. And Rainey did this banquet last night, and she said, and yesterday I was still feeling that peculiar wobbliness. And I felt like it's probably because I got a shitty night of sleep the 2 nights before, all wobbly. I'm much better today, even though I got not a really good night of sleep last night. You know what woke me up last night? Low blood sugar.
Ugh.
I hate that because I'm laying there and I'm sweating. I'm just pouring sweat. I go, oh my God, why am I? And the TV is on, and I throw back my cover and I'm laying there sweating. And I don't want to wake Rainey up or anything. And I'm like, why am I so? And I go, oh, I get the sweats if I go too low. One of the signs of low blood sugar, you sweat, you feel a little trembly. And so I sat up, and it's dripping off of me. And I went, my blood sugar's low. I look at the clock. It's about 3 a.m. And so I thought, I'll sleep through it. I'll sleep through it. And I thought, no, I can't do that. And I didn't have anything. There's a little fridge down here that's got sodas in it. Rainey's got her regular Pepsis. I drink diet because I don't drink sugar. And I thought, I didn't even think of grabbing one of those and slamming a can. So I wobble my way upstairs. I'm going up the stairs, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm going to have an elevator put in. No, I'm not, because then I'll feel old. No, you can do this. You can do this. And I get to the top of the stairs, and I go in the kitchen. And the first thing I did, there was a pack of chocolate-covered cherries. And
did you eat the entire box of chocolate-covered cherries?
No, I ate 3 of them, though.
Oh, okay.
But I grabbed that box. And of course, you open it and they're all sealed. They got the plastic wrap over the top of the thing. And I'm like, I'm fumbly when I get low blood sugar too. And I came in here first and I took my blood sugar. I was at 39 after being high yesterday again. And so I finally got sugar in me and I was fine. So I think I've kind of evened out for the day. But so I'm wobbly. And we loaded up the vans and stuff with all the stuff she had to bring. Popcorn maker. Rainey, that's a cool thing about Rainey. For our kids, because her involvement in the kids, she got like a popcorn maker. Old-fashioned on the wheel cart.
Cotton candy maker.
And then she got the cotton candy maker.
She's her own little carnival.
She is. Rainey's a carnival. And
she'll even do the sideshow naked lady dance.
That's right. That's right. For a nickel.
She's an old.
So she's got all this. We loaded this all up, and I said, we get there. But we did it at the Catholic Church, which I'm glad I mentioned Catholic Church because it segues into what I was talking about at the beginning. I'm going to get to it. But it's all downstairs in their banquet hall. And I'm like, oh, kids, everybody grab a box. I am wobbly today. I'm not, and I feel like I can fall asleep. I said, everybody grab a box. And I don't want to make 4 trips up and down the stairs. And so we got everything downstairs. And at the end of the show, I'm like falling asleep. And the end of the banquet. And because I have no duties there other than we helped decorate. We put all the tablecloths down,
He said
blue
duty.
and gold, and we put up streamers. The little crepe paper streamers, wrapped blue and gold together, and put them all up all around the whole seating area. And we did stuff like that. So the kids wanted to see the interior of the church, the sanctuary, which they have no clue. We haven't gone to church since before they were born. So I said, once Mom feels that everything is ready, we'll go take a look. So we got everything ready. And then the rest of the time, I didn't have anything to do until the end. Let's pack up. Well, we got some of the older Boy Scouts are here helping in some respect, and they can help carry the stuff out. And it's like, hey, which one of you Boy Scouts, I need your help. You're like, come on, you're Boy Scouts. That didn't happen last night, but that's what you think. You're Boy Scouts. You go out of your way, do your duty. And so we got everything home. And
last night, I'm trying to convince the guys that because the DeMolay had an event coming in at noon, and I said, I can see it tomorrow. Come on, lads, let me show you the finer points of breaking down a stove and cleaning the stove top.
That's right. It's like, I more or less take the Tom Sawyer role.
It's
here. Let me show you how to paint
I don't know that you could do the stove top. I mean, it involves some actual labor.
That's right.
It
takes intelligence to paint a fence. You got to be smart to do that. You can't help with this. Yes, I can. Give me that brush. Okay. If you make a mistake, I'm here. But Raini through this whole show did a fantastic job. And by the way,
amazing woman.
Everybody's saying aspartame is some nasty stuff in diet soda. I know. I don't drink enough of it, though.
Well, and my argument about the diet soda, okay, so you put sugar into your blood and your body releases insulin to eat that sugar. Okay? Yep. When you put artificial sugar in your blood, it says, there's sugar up there. And it goes up there and it goes, we were called up here because of sugar, but we don't see any sugar. And so you get this buildup of insulin. Not good.
Is that what that stuff does, though? Because I can eat a steak that has no sugar in it, and my brain doesn't go, where's the sugar? No, the reason I drink Diet Pop, I drink sugar-free pop because it cuts down on my sugar intake.
But that just says to me you drink too much pop.
I don't drink a lot of pop.
But everything in moderation, what I did, one of the ways that I've turned my A1C and all that around is I don't use any of that artificial sweeteners, any of that I really watch the GMO stuff. Natural products, real butter, real sugar, all that in moderation, combined with cinnamon and chromium and magnesium and eating bowls of berries every day.
We have natural sugar, so
And what I've done is I have dropped that A1C to the point where I don't. They're going to pull me off the metformin and all that stuff.
That's right, Ken Bellows. Ken, you should call in.
How you doing today, Kenny?
Want to talk to you? Call in.
Call in.
We
probably won't. I was going to say we won't be here much longer, but
there it is. We got about 20 minutes.
Yeah, call in.
So there's the link. So I've just done that for 30 years. I've had my phases where I'll go through a 12-pack in 4 days. Right now, we buy the big cubes, the 24 packs. It takes me a month easily to go through that with the kids stealing some of them.
I bought a 2-liter bottle of pop.
I'll maybe have a can a day or a can every 2 days.
I bought a 2-liter bottle of pop a week and a half ago. That's how long it takes to.
There you go.
I
don't drink a lot of soda.
Yeah, I've when I was in my youth. Oh my God. Literally, I've told this story.
In my youth,
we had a pop machine in the studio my folks owned, and when I was away at college, my mom didn't change the pop order, and so got Mountain Dew regularly, but she wouldn't put it in the machine.
Right.
Dad, you see, there should be.
Dave, aren't there stewards to do that for you? Well, yes, but we don't like to brag about.
No, in the lodge we have that's a steward's job.
At the lodge. I thought you meant at home. Oh, steward.
We at the lodge.
That reminds me. By the way, I got to interject.
Stewards didn't show up for the table lodge.
John Ward, the first year I went to Egypt, he's sitting in his office, and he says, "Scotty, you want some coffee?" And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "Shahat, coffee." And his Egyptian servant, and it was all a little tongue in cheek. He was being cheeky about it. So Shahat come in, and and he's got coffee on a platter. Yes, Dr. John, he'd call him. And he says, coffee. And John said the only way he got Shahat to stop stealing cookies, because Shahat's Muslim. He was the foreman of their archaeological sites. And in the off season was a steward at the house, took care of the Arabian stables and stuff like that. And, but plate of cookies, he'd always steal cookies. John said, the best way to get a Muslim to stop stealing your cookies, he says, I always went like this over the cookies. I go, oh, cookies. And then over the cookies, he'd make the sign of the cross over the cookies, and they wouldn't eat them.
So, what was I saying?
I don't know. Wasn't important.
Oh, the soda. So my mom would continue the pop order with the Mountain Dew, but not put it in the machine.
Yes.
Then when I came home from break while I was in college,
is that Dave, or is our broadcast choppy today?
You've been breaking up of here and there for me.
I noticed that on Friday. It was like every 2 minutes I froze for 10 seconds.
You've done that several times. So then I would fill up the car with Mountain Dew, and literally I had a closet, double wide closet at the fraternity house that was just packed solid with Mountain Dew. And there was many times I would have a pot of coffee on in my room. I'd have the Mountain Dew there. I'd be sitting at my desk, an open can of Mountain Dew and a full cup of coffee, and just alternating back and forth between hot and cold caffeine.
There you go.
And I drink
more water now than anything. I'll drink a can of soda if I really want that taste. I like I'll get a diet Mountain Dew. It's still got caffeine, but there's no sugar in it. And I like them ice cold, just on that brink of turning into ice. And I
use the throwback because it's got real sugar in it.
But I drink water mostly. I drink water and coffee. Coffee, the equivalent of this per day, which is roughly
I drink lemon water.
Roughly 2 cups. What's that?
I drink lemon water. I take that real lemon juice, put a squirt or two of that in there.
The taste of lemon in your water. Kat said coffee here.
Good for you.
A 12-pack of Coke around here last 2 or 3 months between the two of us. There you go, Kat. Yeah, that's about the way it is here. I don't drink a lot of soda, but I have my phases. So, but for the most part, Grumpy says sugar intake daily should be no more than 50 grams per day. 120 ounce bottle of Coke is over 60 grams.
Yeah,
I know people who drink 6 a day. That's why I don't drink sugar.
Real sugar, not fake stuff. It's not good for you.
That's right.
Our human bodies were not designed to process chemicals. We were designed to process God's bounty. And if you give it God's bounty, you'll live a healthy life. Everything in moderation.
Everything in moderation. So, yeah, exactly. I smoke, but I don't smoke a lot. I go outside 5 times a day to have a smoke break. People go, if
you're going to smoke spirit.
Happies for the most part.
Smoke spirits.
What's that?
Spirit cigarettes.
American spirit cigarettes. I was told by a health freak, Robert Scott Bell, who does a health show, health and politics and stuff. He said to me years ago, he says, really the safest cigarette to smoke is American spirits. And he said, because they're all natural.
Yep. It's just tobacco.
It
doesn't have all the chemicals and stuff in it. It's why I like to smoke my pipe. It's why I'll smoke a cigar.
You call it the healthiest cigarette to smoke.
Yeah. It's real tobacco. Your body's
coffee, water, and tea, says Morgan Snow. So yeah, if your joints hurt, look at the aspartame intake. Well, My joints don't hurt so much because I hold them right. No, I'm kidding. My joints don't hurt so much, but I have achy muscles all the time, and so I don't do it often. It's not even a routine, but every now and then I take one of those bear ache and pain, whatever it's called, and I'll pop one of those.
Bare
Either
naked
in the
what?
morning or when I go to bed at night. So, or I've got these. Now they're in the other room now. I've got those THC gummies, pot gummies. And
God didn't intend you to eat gummies. God intended you to eat cupcakes.
Cupcakes. Yes. You don't get your THC from gummies. That's unnatural. You got to eat them out of a cupcake. But Rainey actually saved cake. I think she may have talked about it last Sunday. Her brother came over, and they get great glee out of since
Watching
Thanksgiving.
You get stoned.
Watching me get stoned, because they're serious stoners. And he gave me a cupcake at Thanksgiving. He said, only eat a half. Rainey said, eat a quarter. And I ate the whole thing and was stoned for 8 hours. Seriously. And they all had great fun with that all day long. They thought it was the funniest thing. So every time they come over here, since Thanksgiving, DJ will always bring cake. I made some cakes, Scotty. I made some cake for you. And like, no, I know your baked goods. Your baked goods leave me baked. And
see, and how do you have that without the kids freaking out because they don't get a cupcake or they don't get a piece of cake?
Because they know, because mom and everybody lets them know dad's stoned. Oh, and so now Flynn, he wants to see me eat the cupcakes. Dad, why don't you go have a cupcake? And it's off limits for them, and they know it. But he brought a cake this last time. Rainey, I didn't get any because I didn't want to get stoned. But Rainey froze it and put it in the freezer so I can thaw it out and have stoner cake anytime I want. And then one time he came over, a couple times, and he had candy, hard candy that they made with the same stuff. I don't know what they use. But remember, these guys are lifelong stoners. He's 32, 33 years old. He'd been a stoner since the days of his youth. And
yeah, I've never known him when
they're
he wasn't.
refined stoners. And they know their shit. And something that'll knock me on my ass for 8 hours, they'll giggle a little bit and have some more later. Because they've got that tolerance for it. But man, I'm still a newbie. So we go through a ton of club soda, says Cat. All the carbonation, none of the sugar. There you go.
There's an idea. Yeah, I like club soda.
I like the taste of certain sodas, though. I would drink Coke Zero, and I would drink Diet Dews. Oh, no. My big favorite is Fresca.
Oh, so, I love Fresca growing up.
I love Fresca, and I love it ice cold. This one's old. It's been sitting on my desk for like a week. So I like that stuff. And sometimes we'll buy, this isn't mine, this was Rowan's, but this, Frost, sugar-free flavored water. We'll drink some of that around here. Different brand for me. But Fresca I like to drink. And when it's ice cold, I can guzzle this stuff.
Tea,
but I don't drink
Earl Grey, hot.
So the last Mountain Dew I had, Diet Mountain Dew, still sitting here on my desk, the can, but I use it. I burn incense in it because so that's been sitting there for a while. And anyway, blah 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 blah.
So what do you have planned for the day?
Today, don't know yet. It's like my radio shows. It's not radio time yet. I still got 10 minutes to come up with a topic. No, I don't know. I think we're going to hang a little low today, low prof.
I'm going to start a new painting, I think.
All right. I got a painting I want to do. I've just got a hankering. I'm in the middle of a million projects. Well, literally 6 projects that need my attention. But I get ideas and I want to jump into that new project. I got to finish. I want to try to finish by the end of the month. How to be an archaeologist. I've got roughly, not quite a half of the illustrations finished. The book's done. It's just the illustrations. And so I've got those to finish. And that's the next thing on my list to get done, to get that completed. And what did I hit here? That's not what I wanted. And I've got a few of these. Some of you have seen these before, but and I think I still have them here somewhere. If I go here and here, if you don't know what this is about, this book, it's a little book I wrote. It was meant to be like a kid's book, but it's for adults too. How to be an archaeologist. And I don't think I have any of the sample spreads that are JPEGs. I do not, or PDFs. I do not. Nope, none of them. Somewhere I did, but I don't think I even have the cover as a PDF. Let me see. I thought I did for some of these because I thought
we've seen it before, though. You've been working on this for a while.
Yes, you have.
Yeah,
and
you posted it.
So it's fun stuff.
The boy that finds the pipe.
Yep. And I've read the book on the show before.
Yep.
And Raini says, "Well, don't read it on there. That gives it all away." I said, "It's okay. By the time it comes out, nobody's going to remember it." I go, "Oh, yeah." And then you don't have the book. If I just read it to you, you don't have the book. It's going to be a little hardback, square bound book. And it's with the old publishing company I started with my buddy, and then I'm out of it now. But Pierre, who has Little Platinum Books, we called it. It's supposed to be books for adults to read to their kids. So it's books that adults will enjoy, but kids will too, if the parent reads it to them. Our first book was that we only did one so far, was How to Rob a Bank. And we did this whole how-to series is the plan. How to be an archaeologist is the next one. But How to Rob a Bank, it was about a guy who's an international bank robber, and it's Bring Your Kid to Work Day. So he brings his young son to work. The gang is all there. One of the pictures, one of the gang members has his son up on his shoulders, and they're all some very sophisticated gentlemen. And they rob a bank and get away with it and fly away on their private plane at the end of the book. Not to give away the story, but they're good bank robbers. They're like good pirates, you know. And
didn't you have one on how to run for office or something? How to?
We haven't done this one yet. It was when Trump was president that we.
Yeah.
How to steal an election, we called it, and it was meant to be tongue in cheek because we were Trump supporters. And everybody says he stole the election. Well, that's how to steal an election. That was before the 2020 election. So it was about a book about Trump. Oh, watch. YouTube is now going to nail me and say, we took down your post because you talked about a fraudulent election. No, we didn't. I'm talking about a title of a book. Dumbasses. If you actually look at it rather than have your bots pick up things, and then you gotta work to defend yourself. It's like the old system of jurisprudence. You know, you're a pirate, we're going to hang you unless you can bring up a proper defense. So, in part, a totally different story. We'll talk about this one of these days. So maybe we'll do that.
Have you ever taken a coin that doesn't belong to you? I found a sovereign on the ground once.
Yes.
And you are a sailor. I make my trade at the sea. And he goes, so you're a sailor who's stolen a sovereign. That makes you a pirate.
That's I read the book by Richard Zacks called The Pirate Hunter, and it was the story of Captain Kidd, and a
much maligned individual, in my opinion. But
a what individual?
A much maligned individual.
Much maligned. He always came across in my mind with his physical descriptions as I thought, Liam Neeson could have played him easily in the movies before he was 75 years old.
Yeah.
But at the height of his piracy days, he was in his mid-40s, tall, lanky, not hook nose, but the nose like Neeson's. But he was hired as a privateer. He had a house on what
Charles
became,
Lawton played him in the film, I think.
Yeah, Charles Lawton, wrong body type, wrong all of that.
Lawton played Bligh.
Yeah, he played Captain Bligh.
Now, what he did for Bligh, he went down to Savile Row, where Bligh had his uniforms made. They pulled Bligh's patterns out to make Lawton's clothes, and it was as though they were made for him.
Yes, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, in this book, Richard Zach's book, The Pirate Hunter, it's about Captain Kidd and how pretty much he was hired by the king. He was given a letter of marque.
Yep.
By the governor of then Baltimore, I think it was, Baltimore or Boston.
Legally licensed to take any flag that was a flag against the crown.
And there was some mix-up. It was the one of the Muslim ships. And then he killed a guy because the guy was fomenting mutiny, and he hit him on the head with a bucket. And the guy died 2 days later of head wounds. And so he's a murderous pirate. And then he took the I can't remember the name, the merchant ship, a Muslim merchant ship. And then they were like, after that, it was like, well, fuck it, we're pirates. And but they made back for home. This is the story of Oak Island is all one of the stories that, well, Captain Kidd's treachery hid all there. Because according to Kidd and the stories of the sailors with him, they brought back home the equivalent of like $2 billion in gold. But none of it was on his ships when they arrested him. And he said he had the gold in hiding. And so Oak Island was supposed to be one of those places that was purported to be the hiding place.
With the intention that the king would not kill him if he gave the king a big chunk of this gold.
Well, here's the thing. The king he put his name to it, but didn't put his name to it. He said he wants to be unmarked. He will not avow it. It's like Mission Impossible. They will disavow any knowledge of your actions. And it was representatives of the king who did this. It was the governor, Bellamont, that hired him. Well, they all wanted their gold.
Well, and they didn't want a diplomatic incident with this Muslim government.
Right. And so Kidd is thrown into jail. He spends a winter in a miserable jail in Boston. And remember, this is like was it 1690s or was it 1609? I can't remember. I think it was the 1690s is when this all happened.
Ryan, you would know this. Which is it?
Ryan would know that. I think it was 1692. It pops into my head. But then they send him over to England for trial because, we're a colony. So he goes to England in chains, thrown into prison in England. He's there for a year. And he finally goes to trial. They wouldn't allow him access to his papers, but he had to provide a defense. You're a pirate. We're going to hang you. Do you have a defense? How do you plead? And if you pled anything but guilty, you had to provide a defense. It wasn't you're innocent until proven guilty. It's you're guilty unless you can prove your innocence.
Yep.
And so what happens in his story, Captain Kidd's story, he's not allowed access to any of his papers. They have, Richard Zach's included transcripts from the trials. And he tells the whole story of Kidd and how he's stonewalled and he's snowballed because of the people involved in making sure he had his letter of marque to be a privateer. They all wanted their gold, but none of them wanted to be responsible for pirating. And they claimed he was a pirate. And he said, I was not a pirate. And so finally, he loses his case, of course. They're taking him out in the cart, doing the run down the roads and where they get him all drunk on the way and people throw shit at him. Well, all the people are kind of cheering him on. They're handing him drinks. on the way to the gallows, and he's drinking up, and he is sodden by the time he gets to the gallows. And he gets up there on the gallows, and when he realizes this is pretty much the end, he kind of sobers up a bit, and he says, I was no pirate, and this is unjust, and blah, blah, blah. They hang him, pull out the trapdoor, down he goes. What happens? Snap, the rope breaks, and he falls to the beach below. And what was that supposed to be in those days, Dave? What happened if they hung you?
God's will. God has determined you are innocent and you are set free.
And that's the way it was done then. Your rope breaks, you are set free because this was an act of God. What happens instead? The representatives of the government take them up and restring them up, and the people are not happy about this.
Yeah.
And they finally, they end up hanging him.
He said he was innocent. God said he was innocent. You can't hang him again. Oh, yes, we can. We have another rope.
And so he got railroaded the whole way.
Yeah.
And it's a really good book.
Here's a case, going back to your other story.
There it is. Ed Odell came up with June 6, 1699.
Here's a case where politics plays in again.
Yes.
Clearly, someplace along the line between him getting his letter of marque from these bureaucrats,
yes,
and him taking this Muslim ship, the Star something, I think the word star's in it. Anyway, he must have done something that made him politically fall out of favor with these people.
He fell out of favor because he hid the gold. I think they wanted his gold.
Yeah, but see, I think it's more than that. I think he hid the gold because he had already crossed.
Oh yeah,
or been crossed.
He knew he was sailing home. He walked into Bellamont's mansion when he got back. You wouldn't do that if you think they're going to cut off my head. He walks into the mansion. He knew he had been wronged ahead of time. And that's what happened to him. It's a great book, The Pirate Hunter. If you want a good read, it's history, but it's written like the story. It doesn't have narrative like a novel, but it's written very well, and it's very.
Did Jimmy Carter pass?
What's that?
Did Jimmy Carter pass?
I don't know.
Because they're showing a thing on Fox, Jimmy Carter's final days.
Jimmy Carter's hospice care announcement, I see.
Huh.
He had his 75th wedding anniversary. Jimmy Carter, 98, opts for hospice care 20 hours ago. He's going into hospice. He's 98. He's almost 100 years old.
Yeah.
Good, sweet man, horrible president.
But he can finally lay back and go, I'm not the worst president.
Yeah, now he can finally go, I'm not the worst president out there. All right, guys, and on that note, it's 11 a.m. on Sunday morning. We're getting out of here. It's noon for those of you out east.
He's just hung on long enough. There's got to be somebody worse than me.
Somebody will be worse than me.
I don't want to die until I know.
Yeah. At least he was a good man. I believe Jimmy Carter was truly not a corrupt individual.
No, he was not a corrupt individual. He
was bad because his policies were bad, not because he was corrupt.
I think his policies were naive.
Yes.
He was ill-suited for the job at hand. He was fine as a governor, and I think he thought he could run the country the way he ran the state, and that just
didn't work.
And I think part of the problem too, he got into office, and you had diehard political Washington insiders who said, "Who the hell is this rube of a farmer that's going to come and tell us how to live our life?"
This is why Trump had so many problems, is because he told them fuck off. So, and on that note, we're ending the show. Fuck off. How about that? Folks, thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here. Uncle Dave.
Love you, bro.
See you later. Good to see you. Love you. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. Glad you could make it in. Make the best of your day today. Have a good Sunday afternoon. and the rest of your morning, if you're here in the central United States or out west, and enjoy your day. We'll see you back here tomorrow night for Intrepid Radio, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. And on that note, I just want to say thanks for being here. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you next time. Live long and prosper.